To kick things off, Yannik, welcome back to Solana Floor. It's not been too long since we spoke for the first time actually in Singapore during Breakpoint 2024. So welcome back. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you. Again, nice to have you back on. I hear there's some very exciting updates coming from Arcium. So to kick things off, I'm going to ask you to give us a very high-level overview of what Arcium is for those who might not be aware of it and what its role is within the Solana ecosystem. And then we're going to dive right into the recent updates.
Yeah, so Arcium is a decentralized confidential computing network. And what we're building with Arcium is, we like to call it a supercomputer, a global distributed supercomputer for the hyper-encrypted internet. And what it means more precisely is that we allow for everything, every kind of data to be encrypted while allowing for anything to be computed on that data. And what it means more precisely for Solana is that we enable any kind of application to add confidentiality to their apps without requiring to know cryptography or anything. Just with a few lines of code, they are able to add full trustless confidentiality to their applications. So imagine DeFi, DePIN, artificial intelligence, everything you could build on Solana.
So in non-technical terms, if possible, could you describe to me what the problems that existed within the Solana ecosystem were that made you think, okay, this is an ecosystem that needs this type of technological advancement so it can grow at scale?
I mean, it's at the core an adoption question, right? If you look at Web 2, you have confidentiality, you have privacy, you have web servers at AWS, for example, where sensitive business logic can be processed. And that's not something possible in open, transparent blockchain environments. And so that's something that has been lacking in the Solana ecosystem, and we're building the solution for that. And in the past, we've been building stuff with zero-knowledge proofs when we were still called elusive. And now with Arcium, we're building generalized confidential computing. So any operation can be executed in a confidential way. And that's important for all kinds of operations, right? If we think about finance, for example, traditional finance, 30 to 40% of the daily spot volume traded goes through dark pools, confidential trading essentially in traditional finance. And that's not something that's possible yet with decentralized applications. And with the kind of infrastructure that we are building, that becomes possible. At the same time, imagine DePIN, distributed sensors, for example, having access to sensitive data. There needs to be a way to encrypt this data and process this data. And so basically every single application can greatly benefit from having access to this kind of trustless and efficient confidential computing power.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to turn our attention to the juicy stuff, the updates, the exciting things. The acquisition, talk me through it. Inpher, talk to me about the company that you acquired. Who are they? Why are they important? And why is this acquisition such a monumental moment for the Solana ecosystem?
Yeah, so Inpher has really been the OG in the traditional confidential computing space. So they have conducted and published some of the most important cryptographic research in that space. They've done enormous amounts of research over many years. They've been funded by JP Morgan, for example, and they have had collaborations together with traditional finance players, big traditional finance players, healthcare institutions, and even defense companies. So the technology that they have been building is really serious. And at the end of the day, the tech that they've been building is the most efficient and trustless way to process large amounts of data. And so they've built solutions for confidential machine learning, confidential AI training, confidential inference in models. And they consisted of an amazing team, a lot of PhDs. They've been founded by a professor and a doctor. So they've really assembled this sort of cryptographic powerhouse. That's what they've been known for in the entire confidential computing space. And so that's what makes this significant, that a Web3 company that's building decentralized confidential computing now has acquired the team and the technology from a Web2 company, the leading Web2 company in their sector. And all of that in the Solana ecosystem. And so having this team now at Arcium allows us to turn Solana into a research ecosystem. And so far, it has always been this notion of, okay, Ethereum is this research ecosystem, but Solana is doing no research. That's changing now. We have the top MPC encryption, FHE, and confidential machine learning folks now at Arcium. And they have already started doing some work on extending functionality of Solana. So not just building cryptography for the Arcium network, but cryptography that benefits Solana by being able to add this cryptography to Solana. And we've started open sourcing all of the technological patents that we've acquired and are going to be open sourcing all of the technology, all for the Solana teams to use. So I think that's so significant that we actually have a leading player, this cryptographic powerhouse in a sector, now be part of Solana.
Very interesting. You mentioned a few things that I want to pick up on there. Firstly, going back to your point about acquiring the team and the technology. Now, I'm personally no expert in mergers and acquisitions. I know it's a very complex and murky world in the traditional finance side of life. Things can and do go very wrong very often. But talk to me about the thought process of deciding to acquire not just the company, not just the IP, but the team as well and the technology, the entirety of it.
Yeah, I think the most important part about Inpher has been the team, right? So they've built this amazing technology, done all of the research, published all of the papers. But at the end of the day, what's significant is the people that have done all of this work, right? So they're some of the smartest people I know, incredibly humbling to have them on the team and doing the amazing work they're doing every day now. And so the team is the most important aspect.
You mentioned confidential AI and collaborative AI, and I think for a non-technical audience, people like myself who don't think about this day in, day out, the idea of integrating blockchain and AI technology seems like a lofty goal, something that would be nice. But explain to me the way you see it, why this is actually quite critical going forward.
Yeah, so crypto and AI sometimes can seem as this forced marriage, right? Of manually trying to bring two things together, and forced marriages in most cases don't work, I think. Confidentiality is a use case that distributed trustless systems can supply, and that's something where we can see a real impactful intersection between AI and crypto. So the way you have to see it is that the kind of confidential computing that we are supplying is only possible by basically having this distributed network that we're building, but also utilizing Solana, because Arcium uses Solana to essentially introduce censorship resistance and accountability, allowing for guaranteed execution essentially of computations. And so this powerful kind of trustless yet efficient confidential computing is enabled through distributed systems through Arcium and Solana. And AI has a problem, and that is responsible AI to some degree, right? So responsibility can be introduced through privacy, through confidentiality, for example. Imagine having Apple Intelligence on your phone and Apple Intelligence reading every single message, every interaction you have, doing permanent voice recordings, you wearing Meta glasses, for example, and then everything you see getting sent to Meta, for example, to be processed, which I feel like is a non-ideal scenario. And so with confidential AI, that can be solved. And the way I think about it is really that with blockchains, what we're able to do is not just make AI responsible. We're able to build completely new kinds of applications. And so one example for that would be healthcare. I think that's one of the most tangible examples. So imagine having highly sensitive patient data and being able to collect this highly sensitive patient data and train models on this data to learn new insights, do new disease research without ever having to jeopardize any of the data, without ever having to share anything about this data, because the processing now is trustless, is confidential. And so it becomes possible to train collaboratively, essentially, over distributed, isolated data that remains isolated, that remains in ownership over the corresponding parties. And I think an interesting long-term vision where crypto then can come into play is what I like to call end-to-end encrypted AI. So having input data that is used for training, that is fully encrypted, remains in full ownership of the parties that own that data, and then using our confidentiality technology, training AI models. And now here's the twist: keeping those resulting AI models fully encrypted and storing them on chain, and then doing inference on those models also in a fully confidential way. So you can ask this model something and don't have to share the data with anyone, because you essentially just send an encrypted request to some encrypted model that lies on the blockchain. And I think that can truly revolutionize the world.
Exciting. Thank you so much for making time to talk to us today, Yannik. I appreciate it, and hopefully catch up very soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Jack. Take care.